This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Windows 10 Essentials. In this class, we'll be continuing our discussion of the Windows 10 operating system. We'll be reviewing a little bit of what we talked about in Windows Basics, and then we'll be jumping into some new things, including pinning apps and pinning apps to different areas in Windows 10 so you can get to them faster. We'll talk about customizing your layout a little bit, creating shortcuts on your desktop, and we'll also talk more about files and folders. Okay, we'll kind of discuss the whole life cycle of a file and folder from creation to deletion. All right, now before we get started, I just want to remind you that there has been a newer version of Windows released recently, which was Windows 11. Okay. Now that's okay because many of us will still continue to use Windows 10. Windows 10 will continue to be supported through 2024. Okay, I'm sorry, 2025. Okay, so don't worry too much about moving to Windows 11 right away. If you're not comfortable doing that, you can just leave Windows 10 as is on your computer and continue using it. Like I said, through late 2025 when support will end for Windows 10. All right, but it is still considered a current and relevant operating system, so don't feel pressure to move to Windows 11. Just stick to Windows 10 if you're more comfortable, and that's what we'll be covering in this class. So in Windows Basics, let's review a little bit of what we talked about in that class. All right, first we talked about the computer more generally, or should I say the PC. Remember, there's the PC, there's also a Mac, okay? Both are considered computers, but Macs operate a bit differently than other PCs. They also have their own operating system. So in this class, and in pretty much in all of our computer classes here at the Mercer County Library System, we are using PCs. Okay, PCs are developed by many different brands, HP, for example, Dell, Toshiba, Acer. All right, those are all examples of brands that manufacture PCs. So your PC is made up of hardware and software. The hardware refers to the physical components of the computer. Okay, we have external hardware components, we have internal hardware components. So a keyboard would be an example of an external hardware component. The hard drive or hard disk would be an example of an internal hardware component. All right, again, the physical parts of the computer. And then we have software, which is the essentially the list of instructions, or what we typically call a program, that your computer needs to run different kinds of tasks. Okay, so all the different things you want to do with your computer are controlled by different software programs. Typing up a document, okay, that's controlled by a software program such as Microsoft Word. Browsing the internet, that's controlled by a software program such as Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox. Okay, now the software also requires some storage space to run. We also use storage space for our own files that we create and save. All right, so in your computer, you have your main storage, which we typically call the hard drive or hard disk, sometimes the C drive, the letter C. All right, that's that main storage, that permanent storage that's built into the computer itself. And that's usually where we're saving our work. Okay, when we download some kind of file, or if we create our own file, we are saving it to our hard drive or that main storage. Okay, again, the main storage is also where your software is kind of stored and where it's running from. We also have removable storage options. So something like a USB drive or flash drive. This is a good example. You can plug this into your USB port on your PC, and you can move files to that USB drive. You can copy them to that USB drive or flash drive. You could take that flash drive out, plug it into a different computer, and have access to the same files on that computer. So in this case, the flash drive is acting as a removable or portable storage, allowing you to move files from one location to another back and forth. Okay. Another example would be cloud storage, which is very popular nowadays. Cloud storage is a little bit different. It is remote storage. We access it through the internet. Okay, so something like Google Drive you might be familiar with, Microsoft OneDrive, or iCloud. These are all examples of cloud storage platforms. Okay, these different companies, they provide us space on their own servers. we're able to create our own account that gives us access to that server. The account is password protected, it's still private, it's still secure, and they allow us to save backup copies of important files, and in some cases even create new files. Okay, in fact, I'll be doing a Google Drive class later today, so if you're interested in learning more about Google Drive, I encourage you to check that out. All right, we didn't really talk about memory too much in Windows Basics, but memory, often called random access memory or RAM, essentially is what allows you to multitask on your computer, all right? Because most of us, when we're using our PC at home or at work, we are doing more than one thing at the same time, right? We're doing multiple things, looking at the internet, typing up a document, looking at pictures, etc. So RAM is what allows us to do all these things quickly without too much interruption. Now, we also have our operating system, which your PC needs in order for you to use it, okay? The operating system is essentially what makes the PC user-friendly. Okay, so it allows you as the everyday user who doesn't know a whole lot about computers, it allows you to use your computer with relative ease. Okay, it puts everything into a system that's easy to navigate, and it puts everything into a language that you can understand. All right. Now, Windows is an example of an operating system, and that's the one that, of course, is installed already on a PC when you purchase it. And that's the one we're using in this class. So Windows is the most popular operating system out there. And again, Windows just puts everything into a language that you can understand. It organizes everything into a system that's relatively easy to navigate, okay? And it gives everything a consistent look. Again, Windows is installed on PCs. All right, and another quick example of another operating system is the Mac OS or Mac operating system, which is the one installed on Mac computers. Also, another good example, Android. Okay, Android is an operating system that we find on many smartphones. So let's go back to Windows though. When we're using Windows, we have two main areas of access, our desktop and our start screen or start menu. Okay, the start menu is kind of where we go to access everything. The desktop is a quick access area or the main work area. So remember that when we use Windows or really any Microsoft product, okay, Microsoft loves to give us a million ways to access one thing, or what we call quick access. So the desktop is a quick access area. The start menu is an area to access pretty much everything. That's why they call it the start menu. It's a good place to start. Now, when we're using Windows, there are some parts of a standard window, which I'll talk about again real quick in this class. Okay, but remember that when we are accessing different programs on our PC, again, we're multitasking. We're looking at the internet, we are typing up a document, and we're looking at pictures. All right, each of those different tasks is viewable in its own window, hence the name Windows. We can put a window away temporarily, get it out of our view, so we're focusing on one thing, and we can move back and forth between different windows and therefore different tasks. All right, and each window has some standard display controls, which I'll review again in this class very quickly. All right, and then we also talked about starting up and shutting down your computer. Okay, starting up the computer is very easy. You simply go to, if you're using a desktop computer, which is a computer designed to stay in one place, you go to the main CPU or central processing unit. Okay, sometimes we call it the tower, and we press the start button or the power button and it starts up. If it's a laptop, the start button is built into the laptop itself, of course. And then when we go to shut down, we go to our start menu and we ensure that we've saved our work and then we can go ahead and shut down. So in this class, we're going to talk more about personalizing our Windows 10 layout and display. We're talking more about finding and accessing apps and files and enabling quick access to your favorite things on your PC. Okay, so we'll talk about how we can get to our favorite things faster. More specifically, we're going to talk about the three main access areas in Windows 10, our start menu, our taskbar, and our desktop. Now, technically speaking, the taskbar is part of your desktop, but I like to separate them into two separate areas because they kind of operate a bit differently. Okay, so Start Menu, Taskbar, Desktop. We're going to access the Windows 10 settings just a little bit in order to make some of these customizations. We're also going to be using our right click with our mouse and the click, hold, and drag technique with our left mouse button in order to do some of these customizations, all right, in order to perform them. All right, a lot of the customizations we can make with our Windows 10 layout and display are easily done with just our mouse, essentially, or they're at least started with our mouse. We're going to be using later on, we're going to open up our File Explorer app to get access to our files and folders. And in the process, we will also create desktop shortcuts. All right. And again, when we get to File Explorer, we're going to be essentially talking about the entire life cycle of a file and folder, from creating it to maybe moving it or copying it to maybe renaming it to eventually deleting it when we don't need it anymore. All right. So let's quickly talk about files and folders, and then we're going to jump into the Windows 10 operating system. So let's just review files and folders, essentially how they're organized in our Windows operating system. So all the information that's in your computer is stored on your computer's hard disk, or drive C, or hard drive, whatever you want to call it. All right. So it's good to picture your hard disk like a filing cabinet, because your hard disk, any information that's stored on your hard disk or hard drive, is organized into files and folders, just like a filing cabinet. So your computer's hard drive can hold tens of thousands of files and folders. Now, as you probably know, when we're using an operating system like this, everything we access, or most things we access, are accessed through an icon. Okay, that picture, that icon acts as the access point for that particular thing, whether it's a file, a folder, or a software program. So in this case, we have two examples. We have, in the top row, we have examples of folder icons. And down here, we have examples of file icons. Okay. Oops. All right. So as you can see, folder icons include a picture of a folder. So it's pretty easy to identify folders. And then down here we have file icons. Now, many file icons will have the dog-eared piece of paper, like we see here. Even if it's not a text-based document, it will still have that in some cases. Sometimes, though, as we're seeing more and more, file icons will sometimes have something more indicative of the kind of file it is, or the file format. So in this case, we would have a picture, and this would be an audio file or music file, I can tell, because it looks like a record. Okay. So a computer document is a file that you might want to look at on the screen, print out on paper, or to which you might listen. So when we use the term document, we could use it interchangeably or synonymously with file. Okay, they both mean the same thing when we're talking about a PC. So when we create something, okay, and save it, we are saving it as a file. Or if we download something from the internet, we're downloading it as a file, which we can then store into a folder. All right, so these are a few examples of different file formats: type text, pictures, and music. So in the computer world, music and video are all saved as files, just like any other document. So, quick recap: a folder is a container in which you can store documents, like a manila file folder in a cabinet. The icon for a folder will usually resemble a manila file folder in some way. A file or document is like a paper document, something you store inside a manila file folder. But remember, a file or document isn't just text-based, okay? It can be a picture, song, video, or type text. And the icons that represent documents usually have a dog-eared piece of paper as part of their icon. But like I said, we're seeing more and more that some file icons have something more indicative of the file format it's saved in. Like again, it might look like a picture if it's an image file. It might look like a record if it's an audio or music file. Now, a quick note on programs and apps. So we've been talking about files and folders for the past few minutes. Now, a program or app is neither a document nor a folder, okay? Remember we talked about software before, software programs. A program or app is the tool that we use to create, view, or print documents. So again, if we have a Word document, that means that we created it using a program called Microsoft Word. So the icons for programs or apps have neither the manila file folder symbol nor the dog-eared piece of paper. The icon for a program or app is usually its logo. So here's a few examples. On the left side, we have program icons. On the right side, document icons. So let's look at Microsoft Word here. Okay, this would be the icon for the program Microsoft Word. It's just its logo. On the right side, we see an icon with a dog-eared piece of paper. So that means that this is a file. More importantly, we see the Microsoft Word logo layered on top of it, which tells me not only that this is a file, but that this was a document created using Microsoft Word. So again, when we see just the logo, that's the icon for the program. When we see a dog-eared piece of paper, that's a file that we created. And it will also, in most cases, tell you what program you use to create that file. All right, so in a second, we're going to jump into Windows 10 and start with these main areas of access, our Start menu, our desktop, and our taskbar. All right, these are the areas we use to access all of those things, software programs, files, and folders. All right, your Start menu is a good place to access everything. Your desktop and taskbar are quick access areas. So we're going to start with the Start menu first and then move on to the desktop and taskbar after. So I'm going to put this away and just minimize this and go to my, there we go, Windows 10 operating system. So right now we're looking at my desktop, okay, and my taskbar down here. Now this is the main work area in Windows 10, just like it's been in earlier versions of Windows, okay? The desktop has been around forever, so this might look very familiar to you. What is a bit newer to Windows is the taskbar down here, that dark gray or black bar at the bottom, spanning left to right. Okay, but before we get into those, I want to review the Start menu. So in the bottom left of your screen, or at the very left of the taskbar, you do have your Start menu icon. All right, so go ahead and click on it and you will launch your Start menu. Okay. Now remember, you can, to close your Start menu, just click on the icon again, or just click outside of it and you'll close it. You can also use your Windows key under keyboard. So if you have a PC keyboard, there's a good chance you have a Windows key. Look down your keyboard, you'll see your space bar at the bottom. Look to the left of the space bar, you might see a Windows key, the Windows icon. You might even see one to the right as well. You might have two of them. If you press the Windows key, that will open and close the Start menu as well. Now, oops. All right, so I'm going to make this, can I make it a little bit? Yeah, it's not going to go wider, not here in Windows 10. Let's leave it like this. Okay, so here we are, we're looking at our Windows 10 Start menu. So the Windows 10 Start menu is basically divided into two sides or two halves. Okay, the left half is our apps list. Okay, this is the list of all the apps or programs that are currently installed on our computer. Now mine's going to look different from yours. Even if you're here in person right now, your PCs are going to be a little different from mine because I have different programs installed on my computer than you do on yours. Okay, so this is everything that's installed on your computer right now. Now to the right of the apps list is your, this is still considered the Start menu, but this is a quick access area. So I like to call this the tile area. This is where we can pin access, secondary access points to our favorite programs to get to them faster. We'll come back to that in a few minutes. Let's start on the left side here. So again, this is our apps list containing all the apps currently installed on our computer, and you'll see it's sorted alphabetically. there is a scroll bar to the right of that apps list that allows you to scroll up and down, okay? If you don't see the scroll bar, it's because it's just hidden. That's part of Windows 10 default settings. Okay, if you point at the right side there, the scroll bar will pop up and you'll see it, so you can use it. Okay, so I can scroll all the way down as far as it can go. It looks like in my case, it's stopping with Y for your phone. Again, yours might be different. So these are all the apps currently installed on my computer. Now, you'll notice that for most of these, the icon, each of these programs, in this list has an icon next to it. In most cases, the icon is the logo for that program. So that tells me that this is the access point to that specific program. All right. So I'll use calculator as a quick example. There's the logo. All right. So with one single click, it will launch that particular program. And there it is. Okay. Now, if you want to close that program, just use the X in the top right corner here. Let me go back to the start menu. Now, in some cases, I'll use Windows accessories as an example. I'm going to scroll down toward the bottom. In some cases, that it's not what you see is not actually a program. Okay, it's a folder. And how do I know the difference? Because of the folder icon, like we see with Windows accessories here. So if you see a folder icon, you'll also see a drop-down menu, which means that if I click on this, it's not going to launch a program because that's not what it is. It's a folder. If I click on it, it's going to open up that folder to show me what's inside. Okay, now in some cases, these folders in your start menu, they group together related programs, which is what Windows accessories is doing here. So when I open it, I see that everything inside of it has a specific or unique logo next to it, which means that these are all different programs. Okay, so in this case, Windows accessories, that folder is just grouping together related programs. So they don't take up all the space in my apps list. They just consolidate them to kind of make it nice and tidy. All right, clean it up a little bit. All right, Windows accessories, by the way, how are these related? Well, these are kind of simpler programs that come with your Windows 10 operating system. Okay, and additionally, a lot of these have been around for a long time. They're kind of legacy programs. So they're all just grouped together in this folder called Windows Accessories. Now, if you want to close the folder, you just click on the folder icon again, and you'll close it. All right, and we do see more folders throughout. And one more I'll show you is iTunes. All right, iTunes has a folder icon as well. If I click on this one, it will open up the folder. In this case, I only get two options, About iTunes and iTunes. Now, iTunes has the logo next to it. That means that that is the access point for that program. If I click on it, it will launch iTunes. However, the one above it, the icon has a dog-eared piece of paper. Okay, this is a file or a document related to iTunes called About iTunes. So presumably, if I click on this, it will open up a document containing some supporting documentation about iTunes. Okay, and then if I want to close this folder back up, I just click on the folder again to close it. So when you see folders in your start menu apps list here, remember, they do contain access to some programs, but they will also in some cases contain supporting documentation for those programs. All right, but otherwise, most programs are just right here in the list itself, and I know that because of the logo next to it. Okay, now so let's I'm just thinking, let's talk about the right side here now. Okay, let's talk about the tile area. We're going to go back to the left side in a second to these controls, but let's talk about the tile area for a second. So when we use Windows 10, our start menu gives us this section here where we can add access points to our favorite programs. so we can get to them faster. Okay, now when we do this, we call it pinning, P-I-N. Okay, kind of like if you have a bulletin board at home and you pin something to it, so you can, so it's right there in front of you, so you can look and get to it faster, like an important memo. Same thing here. Okay, when we use a Microsoft product and we're adding an access point somewhere, typically we call that pinning. So we are able to pin programs to our start menu so we can get to them faster. When we pin them to the start menu, we are pinning them as tiles like we see here. Now again, my tile area is going to look different from yours because you have different tiles set up. Don't worry about that because it is 100% customizable. Okay, so let's practice pinning. It's very simple. When we want to pin something, okay, we can often do that in one of two ways. We could use a right click with our mouse, or we could do a click and drag. And by the way, this is the same kind of technique you'll use for all types of different customizations, okay? In fact, let's review the right click real quick and what that means for a PC. So when I'm using a PC, whether it's an HP, a Dell, an Acer, it doesn't matter. When we're using a PC and we right click with our mouse, we get what's called a contextual menu, okay? Sometimes we just call it the right click menu, that's fine. All right, technically speaking, it's called a contextual menu. And that's because the menu options change depending on what we right click, okay? I could right click on my taskbar, for example, I get a different menu. Right click on the desktop area, I get a different menu. Okay, now, and the options you get in these contextual menus typically allow you to customize that thing you're clicking on, change the way it's arranged, change the way it looks, okay? And even more than that. So with that said, if I go back to my start menu, let's say I want to pin a program as a tile. I could do that with a right click. Now, I'm going to scroll down to the Windows Accessories folder. This is a good example because now I'm going to open Windows Accessories. So if you want, go ahead and scroll down to Windows Accessories and click on that folder to open it. Let's say I use the Paint program all the time, okay? I use Paint all the time. Now, I don't want to always have to scroll down, open up the folder to get to it. Maybe that's just a little bit time consuming. I could just pin it to my start menu as a tile so it's always right here. So to do that, one way to do it is I will right click on that app like so, and I get a contextual menu. Okay, again, we scroll down to Windows Accessories here. We clicked on it to open it, and now I'm looking at Paint. So if I right click on Paint, the first option I see is called Pin to Start. Give that a left click. Pin to Start, a left click. Good. And we'll see it as a tile down at the bottom here. Okay, it automatically puts it at the bottom of the tile area. We can move it. We'll come to that in a minute. Okay, and if we click on it, whether here as a tile or from its access point in the main list, either way, it's going to open up the Paint program. And now I'm going to click on the X here to close it. Okay, so that's, again, so we've kind of looked at two things here, pinning to get to something faster and also practicing using our right click. And we see that a right click gives us a contextual menu, and through that contextual menu, we can often make customizations in terms of layout and access. Okay, now I'm going to go back to Windows Accessories again, open up that folder, and I'll do another one. Okay, this time I'll use Notepad. Okay, let's pretend I use Notepad all the time. Instead of a right click, another way to customize your layout in many cases or customize your access is to use a click and drag with your left mouse button. So I could just go to Notepad here, click, hold, and drag that icon. I'll put it next to Paint and drop it there as a tile. So that's just another way of pinning. Okay, I'll do that one more time real quick. I went down to Notepad. Again, we're in Windows Accessories, that folder. I'll go to Notepad. I will, with my left mouse button, click, hold, and drag that icon next to Paint down here and drop it as a tile. The second you drop it, it will be a tile. All right. Now, we'll do one more real quick. I'm still in Windows Accessories. I'm going to go to Snipping Tool down here. All right. We're still in the Windows Accessories folder. I'll go to Snipping Tool. All right. In this case, you could do either method, whatever you're more comfortable with. I'll use the right click and click on Pin to Start. Okay. If you're not familiar with Snipping Tool, by the way, it's a simple program that comes with Windows that allows you to essentially take screenshots. Okay. Something you're looking at, you can draw a box around it and save it as an image. All right, so we have 3 Windows accessories programs pinned as tiles now: Paint, Notepad, and Snipping Tool down here. Now, if you want to remove a pinned program, okay, we just call that unpinning. And in that case, you can't use the click, hold, and drag method, but you can use the right click. So if I right click on Snipping Tool, for example, I can select unpin from start, and it takes it away. All right, now I'm just going to put it back again. All right, so that's pinning. In this case, we pinned to the start menu. Now, we could take this a few steps further in this tile area. Okay, we can group our tiles together. So as you can see on mine, I have 2 groups right now. Up here, one called Office with these icons, or these tiles, excuse me. Down here, I have a group called Explore. And then these 3 we just set up are technically their own group right now. Okay, oops. Now I know they are their own group because there's a space between these 3 and the 2 above it. See the black space there? Okay. If you didn't have that space, if they were part of an existing group like this, you could still just click and drag and move them down to separate them into their own group. Oops. All right, you want to wait until you see that blue bar pop up and then drop them. And then they're going to be part of their own group. Now that they're grouped together, I can click into that empty space where it says name group, and maybe I'll call them favorites. Press enter to save that group name. All right, so remember, if you want to group them, if they're not already grouped together, you just have to click, drag, wait till you see that blue bar. That means you're creating a new group, and then drop them under that blue bar. And then once they're grouped together, click into that empty space above the group, type in a name, I called it favorites, and then press enter to save that name. And then you have a new group with its own name. All right, now one more thing I can do is, these are my favorites. I should probably put this group at the top of the tile area, not at the bottom. So if I go to that name, just the name itself, I can click, hold, and drag and move the entire group to the very top here and drop it there. So now my favorites are saved as a group and they're placed at the top of the tile area. Now, a couple other things about these tiles that are worth noting. You can customize them in a few other ways. You can right-click on them to resize them. So remember, right-click gives you contextual menu. Because as I said, whenever you want to change something about the way something looks, its layout, okay, its size, or the way it's accessed, usually we can make those changes by first right-clicking and then selecting the appropriate option from the list. So from this list, I do see resize. Okay, I'll click on medium instead of wide. I can do small. All right, whatever options they give you, you can use. Is this turned off? No. There we go. I was trying to force it to turn on. So another thing I wanted to mention is that some of these tiles are what are called active tiles, okay? Or I'm sorry, not active tiles, live tiles, like we see with the weather app here, okay? Live tiles, they give you real-time information right on the face of the tile itself. They kind of act like widgets. So the idea is that you don't necessarily have to click and open up that app to get to the information. Okay, if I want my local weather, it's right here on the face of the tile itself. Okay, notice how it says Lawrence, New Jersey there. So live tiles are typically going to be your Microsoft apps. Okay, apps, they come with Windows. You have simple kind of apps that come with Windows that are also owned by Microsoft. You have your weather app, for example. You have your Microsoft News app. That's another one that can be a live tile. I have OneNote here. Okay, so some of these apps, some of these tiles that are owned by, that are Microsoft apps, they can also be live tiles. If you want to turn the live tile off, you can right click and select, go to more and select turn live tile off if you don't like having that real-time information there. Okay, also the Microsoft Store down here. That's another Microsoft app that gives you access to all the other apps that you can install into your Windows computer, whether for free or for purchase. All right, so now that we talked about pinning apps, in this case to our tile area, we're going to return to the discussion of pinning in just a few minutes, but let's go over to the left side of our start menu and talk about these controls here. Okay, on the very left side, you have some kind of system controls, things that don't have to do with programs or apps like we've been discussing. These are more operational or functional to the computer itself and to your Windows settings. So they relate to your Windows settings, excuse me. So some of these you will have on your own computer at home or at work. You might have different options here. You may have more or fewer. It all depends on how it's configured. I'll talk about how we can customize this in 1 second, but let's talk about what's here right now. So the first option we see is going to be your Windows account or your profile. All right, for those of you here in person, it's going to say public or public access. For me, it has my Windows account name. Now, if you click on this, you will get a menu. Again, this is a left click, a normal click. And through that menu, we can do one of three things. We can go to our account settings, or we can do things like add our profile picture. We can sync our Microsoft or Windows-based devices. Okay, things that I encourage you to explore when you're practicing. Under change account settings, we have lock, which allows us to lock our PC temporarily. All right, so remember, if we are using our computer and then we decide we need to go to do something else for 10, 15 minutes, all right, we don't want to leave our computer vulnerable so someone can just jump on it and start accessing our stuff. We can lock it, which means that if I click on it, it will temporarily lock my Windows account. And then when I return, I'll just have to put in my password again to log back in. Okay, very simple. And when you lock it, Okay, you don't have to worry necessarily about saving your work. Everything that you were doing before you locked it will still be there when you unlock it. Okay, that website you were looking at, that document you were typing up, everything is still there once you come back and put in your password. Now, the next one is sign out. Okay, sign out is a little bit different. If we sign out, we are signing out of our Windows account altogether. So in this case, you do want to save any work before you sign out. All right. And typically we sign out so that somebody else who has their own Windows account on the same computer can then sign into theirs. So remember that when we have a Windows and when we have a PC, we could have multiple Windows accounts on one computer. So someone in your household might have their own Windows account, or if you're sharing a computer at work, one of your coworkers has their own Windows account. So instead of having to shut down the computer and then restarting it so someone can sign into theirs, you just have to sign out of yours and then they sign into theirs. Very simple. But remember, when you sign out, make sure you save any work that you were doing before you sign out. Now I'm going to skip over documents and pictures here and go down to settings. Okay, settings will give me access to my Windows 10 settings. I'm going to click on this real quick so you can see. If you want to click on it, go ahead. All right, this is the main portal to your Windows 10 settings. Okay, and you'll see that all of your different settings, all the customizations you can make are divided amongst these categories like system, devices, phone, etc. All right. Now, and it's very simple. If I select a category such as system, it will take me to a new screen for that particular category, for that section, and then it's further broken down into more specific sections like display, sound, etc. I simply select the section I want to look at, and then it will be displayed in this part of the screen here. And then I can make my customizations there. Now, if I want to go back to the main Windows 10 settings start screen, there's the home button up here on the top left. I'll click on it to go back. And here we are. All right, also you'll notice that there is a search bar at the top here. If you want to search for a setting, if you're not sure what category it belongs to, you could just type in your search terms. Like maybe I'm looking for settings for my mouse. I could type in mouse, and then it will give me all the relevant settings for my search terms. Okay, and then I can select the specific settings I need and it will take me right there. Now, sometimes when we make some customizations you can make, you're essentially doing them through the settings here, but we don't have to go through this main doorway. And we're going to talk about that actually in a second. All right. So for now though, we can just close our Windows settings, go to the top right corner, and click on the X to close the settings window. Let's go back to the Start menu. Okay. Back to the very left side for those controls. Under settings is your power button. Okay. If you click on power, you'll get three options: sleep, shutdown, and restart. If we click on sleep, it just puts our computer into a low power or low energy state. Okay, so typically your monitor will just power down. So again, if you walk away from your computer for a few minutes, you're not wasting that energy for nothing. Okay, we'll just kind of power your monitor down. And then when you come back, you just give your mouse a shake or press a key on the keyboard and it will wake it up. Okay, and you can also configure your Windows 10 account so that when you exit sleep mode, you have to put in your password again. Now, under sleep is shut down. This is, of course, where you go to shut down your computer. Don't click on this, of course, but this is where you go to shut it down when you're done. All right, it will close all the apps that are running, so you want to make sure you save your work before you shut down. Last but not least is restart. Okay, this will shut down your computer, but then restart it automatically. sometimes we need to restart when we install a new program or install a new update. Okay, we need to restart the computer before that new program or update takes effect. Okay, usually you'll be prompted to restart if needed, but you can always do it later by using the restart button here in your start menu. Now, two things I didn't talk about were documents and pictures. So when you have Windows comes with default folders. So we're going to talk about folders for 1 second now. Folders are those things we use to organize all of our files. Okay, so again, Windows comes with default folders. They're already created, they're already saved in Windows, in your Windows operating system. 2 of those default folders are documents and pictures. So that's what we're seeing here. These are quick access points to these 2 folders. Now, I can add more default folders to this list, and I can add a few other things to this list by right-clicking on one of those options. So here's the right-click again. Because remember, when we want to customize, we use a right-click. When we want to select something, that's a left-click. When we want to customize, that's a right-click. And you will see, after I right-clicked on documents, it says personalize this list. Okay. All right, so documents, pictures, and settings, these 3 are options that can be added or taken away. That's why we get the personalize this list choice. So go ahead and left click on personalize this list, and it takes you to this screen. And you'll see that it says up here, choose which folders appear on start. So the things that are already there, we see an on next to it, settings, documents, and pictures. So they're just simple toggles. If I want to remove documents, I click on it to turn it off. If I want to add it back, I click on it to turn it back on. So let's say I want to add a couple other default folders. Okay, other default folders that come with Windows, in addition to documents and pictures, are downloads, music, and videos. So I'm going to add all 3 of those, downloads, music, and videos. Just one left click will turn them on. And if you go home and settings is not in that, you don't see the settings option there or the settings access point, just turn it on here where it says settings. Make sure it's turned on. So now that I've added downloads, music, and videos, I'm going to go ahead and close this. So click on the X in the upper right-hand corner to close this screen. I'll go back to my start menu, and on the left side, there they are, downloads, music, and video. So we added those 3 access points to those 3 Windows default folders. So again, we're seeing that the right click allows us to make customizations in terms of layout and in terms of access. Furthermore, you don't have to click again. I'll just show you on my screen. All right, by going to personalize this list, essentially what I did was it took me directly to the settings I need in my Windows 10 settings. So if I wanted to do this same exact thing, if I wanted to do that by going through the main settings portal, I would have had to go here, then to personalization, then to start on the left, then down here to this link that says choose which folders appear on start. Okay, so essentially 4 steps to do the same thing, but by using the right click, it just bypassed all of those steps and took me directly to the settings I need. So the right click often acts as a quicker way to get directly to the settings you need rather than going to the main settings portal. Does that make sense? All right. So I'm going to close my I'm going to close this window again by going to the upper right-hand corner, clicking on the X to close. All right, so we've talked about the start menu at this point in terms of adding or customizing our access points. We talked about pinning programs as tiles, and then we talked about adding folders to the folder list here on the left. All right, now let's talk about the taskbar for a minute. Okay, so if you want to close your start menu, go ahead, just click outside of it to close it, that's fine. And if you still have those any windows open, just close them with the X. All right, good. So we're looking at our Windows 10 desktop right now. This main area is the main area of the desktop. Underneath is the taskbar, this horizontal dark gray bar or black at the bottom of the screen here. Okay, now your taskbar is another quick access area that kind of operates the same way as the tile area here. It allows you to pin additional access points to your favorite programs or apps. Okay, not really files and folders, but programs and apps. So whatever you see down there right now, okay, for the most part, these are pinned apps, what I'm pointing at. Now your taskbar also acts as your control center for windows that are open. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, but these are icons, or these are apps that have been pinned to my taskbar. So if you want to pin more apps, it's the same process we just looked at before. I can go to my start menu. So if you want to do this, go ahead, open up your start menu again. I'll do the same three. I'll go down to Windows Accessories. I'll open up that folder. I'll start with Paint. I can give this a right click, but instead of clicking on Pin to Start, I can go to More and select Pin to Taskbar. So right click on it, go to More, point at it, and then select Pin to Taskbar. And now I have an icon down here in my taskbar, as you can see. All right, I can also pin something to the taskbar, oops, by scrolling down, or by going to that app, excuse me. So I'll go to Windows Accessories again. This time I'll go to Notepad. And I can also just click and drag, just like I did before, but this time drop it into the taskbar. And now I have it pinned to my taskbar. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with Snipping Tool just to be consistent. I'll go to Snipping Tool here. This time I'll use the right click method. I'll right click it. I'll go to More, and then I'll click Pin to Taskbar. So now I have Paint, Notepad, and Snipping Tool all pinned to my taskbar to the very right there. So now I can access those programs in three places: the main list, in my start menu, as a tile in my start menu, or in my taskbar. And you can rearrange your pinned apps in the taskbar by just clicking and dragging. You can change the arrangement if you want to. Just click and drag and drop into a different location. All right, a couple other features of the taskbar, okay? We're going to talk about controlling windows in a few minutes, but let's talk about a few other key features of our taskbar here in Windows 10. Aside from being able to pin apps to get to them faster, we also have our search tool here on the left where it says type here to search, okay? Once you click into that, it will open up this flyout menu through which you can search for all sorts of things. You could search for apps on your computer. You could search for files or documents. So if you're not sure where a file is located, you can't remember what folder you saved it in, you can search for it. Or you can, if you're not sure if a certain app is installed on your computer, you can search for it, okay? You're able to filter your results using these options up here: all, apps, documents, web. You could actually search the web from here using Microsoft Edge. You could also go to more. Okay, you could search for photos. You could search for settings, etc., etc. So you could search pretty much anything. You could search for anything through this embedded search tool in your taskbar. All right, just type in the keywords and it will pull up all the results related to that search. Okay, also next to your search bar, we have what's called the task view, this icon here. Okay, for those of you here in person, it's to the left of the Microsoft Edge icon. That's called, if you point at it, it will say task view. Okay, task view is kind of interesting. It gives you, aside from showing you the windows that are open, it shows you, it allows you to actually create other virtual desktops. Okay, so at the top you'll see it says new desktop. Okay, if I click on that, it gives me a desktop too. So I can actually have different programs running in different desktops, which is great for multitasking. So if I'm playing music, let's say, and at the same time I'm working on a project, I could have the music player in a separate desktop, so it's not crowding the space on my other desktop. Okay, so as you can, and I'll circle back to that again in a second once we start talking about different windows. Let me go back to the other one. All right, also part of your taskbar is what's called your system tray over here to the right in the bottom right corner, where we have the time and the date, for example. That's your system tray. It gives you kind of, think of these as quick access points to some of your system settings, okay? So if these are quick access points to apps here, these are quick access points to system settings, things we looked at before in that Windows 10 settings portal. So if you want to adjust your time and date, you can click on it to go to those settings. All right, and a few other things located there as well. Now, last but not least, your taskbar operates as a control center for your Windows. We'll talk about that in 1 second. I just want to briefly touch on the desktop area here. Now, the desktop area is another quick access area for programs, but also files and folders. So the desktop is more versatile than your start menu and your taskbar in terms of quick access. Your main desktop area allows you to add quick access points to everything, programs, files, and folders. Now the process is different. If I add an access point to a program on my main desktop area, I am not pinning it. Okay, it's not pinning, it's creating a shortcut, which you may have heard of before. All right, creating shortcuts is a different process than pinning, and it's a different thing altogether. We'll talk about shortcuts a little bit later. All right, but again, when we add quick access points to programs, files, or folders, when we add them to this main desktop area, we are adding them as shortcuts, and we will return to that discussion a little bit later. Again, start menu, we pin them, taskbar, we pin them, main desktop area, we add shortcuts, a different thing, which we will talk about a little bit later. So, at this point, let's start talking about files and folders. Okay, so we're going to kind of shift the focus from adding quick access points to programs and apps, okay, to adding quick access to files and folders, but really the whole life cycle of a file and folder, how we organize them, and how we can potentially add quicker access to them. So let's start with where we go to access all the files and folders that are stored in our computer. When we use Windows 10, we use something called File Explorer. Okay, it's a program in and of itself, and it's the program we use to access all the files and folders available to us in our computer. So here in here in person, if you're here in person right now, we have access to File Explorer in our taskbar here. You'll see an icon that looks like a folder. Go ahead and click on it, and that's your File Explorer app. All right, and I'm going to maximize so we can see it full screen here. Now, for those of you attending virtually, if you don't have it saved to your taskbar, that's okay. You can also access it by going to your Start menu, and you can scroll down to Windows System and select it from here, File Explorer. I would suggest, though, that at this point, go ahead and pin it to your taskbar. Right-click, go to More, and select Pin to Taskbar because you're going to need this pretty often, so you may as well have it available in your taskbar so you can get to it faster. All right, so right now we're looking at the File Explorer app, and this is where we go to access all the files and folders in our computer. Now remember, in our Start menu, we had quick access to some of these folders, such as documents and pictures, okay? But when we want to get to everything, okay, typically this is where we go, our File Explorer app. All right, so looking at File Explorer here, essentially we see two main parts of the screen. This section here is where we go to access all the files available to us. So any files that we have are going to be shown here. We also have this navigation pane on the left. All right, navigation pane, P-A-N-E, like a window pane. Okay, we could use this navigation pane. We can kind of use this to get to different folders, okay? But when we want to look at the files inside of those folders, they're going to be shown in them right in this main section here. Okay, so again, navigation pane, think of it as a way to navigate to the folder you need. But when we want to look inside the folder to see the files, we must look over here, okay? Now, in that navigation pane, you have a few different drop downs or categories. We have quick access, OneDrive, this PC, and network. All right, quick access, here you'll find things that you've opened recently, both files and folders. We don't really use this too much though. It's best, we're gonna kind of ignore this for now. Okay, but again, something that you've accessed recently is gonna be shown under quick access. Under that is OneDrive. Now OneDrive, if you're not familiar, this is a cloud storage platform owned and run by Microsoft. Okay, it's Microsoft OneDrive. Okay, when you create a free Microsoft account, you will get access to OneDrive. And you can actually kind of move things back and forth between your computer and OneDrive here. That's why it gives you access here. We're not really going to talk about that here. I just want to show you that it is available here in File Explorer, access to your OneDrive account. Okay, again, you just have to have a Microsoft account in order to have access to it. Under OneDrive is this PC. Now this is where we go to get to everything that's stored and saved in our computer. And we'll go there in just 1 second. Under this PC is network. All right, network is if your computer is, just as the name says, if it's networked, okay, or connected to other, essentially other computers in an organization, like at work or something, this is where you go to access those other servers, okay? Not something we're really concerned with here. We're only concerned with what's on our computer and our computer alone. So for that, we go to this PC. Now, when we use this left navigation pane, you will see the name for that category, and to the left is an arrow. Okay, the arrow, again, we see it kind of acts as a drop down. It will expand that category like so to show you what's inside. If I click on the arrow again, it will collapse to go back to looking like this. Okay, expand, collapse. and that's by clicking on the arrow itself. Now, if I click on the category name, it will show me the same contents, but on the right side of the screen, okay? So you can kind of use the left navigation pane or this section here to get to the folder you need. It doesn't really matter, it's kind of up to you. Sometimes we need to use both though. We'll see an example of that in a little bit. So again, but by clicking on the arrow, it expands to show me the folders that are inside of that category. So I see documents here in the left navigation pane. I also see documents here. They're both the same exact folder, and they're both available inside of this PC. And you'll see that each of these folders also, each one has its own arrow. So I can expand the documents folder here to see the folders inside of that. Because remember, we can create our own folders and put them inside of these main Windows folders. We call them subfolders. All right, when we put a folder inside of another folder, we call that a subfolder. All right. Okay, so just to kind of recap, Windows starts you off with default folders. They're already created and saved in Windows. And those are shown right here: desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, and videos. All right, I didn't create these came with Windows. When I want to be more specific with where I'm putting things, I can create my own subfolders and place them inside of these main folders. So that's what we see when we click on an arrow next to one of these main folders to expand it. We see the folders located inside of that main folder. Okay, and you can put subfolders inside of subfolders. You can keep going and be as specific as you need to be. And don't worry, in a few minutes, we're going to do a couple practices with saving so we really understand how that works, okay? Putting something inside of a folder, inside of another folder, etc. So what I'm showing you right now is basically just how to navigate through your different folders that are saved on your computer. We use the left navigation pane to get to the folder we need in most cases. And then on the right side, we look for the files stored inside that folder. So if, for example, I open up the documents, if I expand the documents folder on the left and then select this class samples folder, I can look at the files inside of it here. Okay. Now, I'm going to actually just collapse all these to go kind of back to square one. All right, so now what I want to do is let's open up, we're going to leave File Explorer open. Let's make our way, let's use a program to do a sample file or sample document. So for those of you here in person, let's go down to our taskbar. And let's use Microsoft Word. It's the blue and white W icon. Go ahead and click on it to launch Microsoft Word. And just go ahead and click on blank document here to start a new document. Okay, now remember, I'm not going to be talking about Word here too much. We're just using this as an example. I am doing a Word 2 class tomorrow. If you're interested, you can sign up. Okay, but we're really just using this for in order to practice saving documents and then placing them into specific folders. So we have a blank document on the screen. All right, let's pretend that we're taking a few classes. All right, we're taking an English class, we're taking a history class, we're taking an economics class. So the first assignment we're working on, is for our English class. So let's just pretend we're typing up an essay. Let's go ahead and type in English essay. Just type in English essay. That's it. Okay, so now we want to save this and we want to put it in a specific folder. So before we save, let's talk about creating a folder for this. We're going to create the folder first, and then we're going to save this and put it in that folder. So let's go back to File Explorer. Now, this is also kind of a second, there's another discussion here, which is how we use our taskbar to go back and open up different windows. So remember, if you look at your taskbar, any programs that are currently running, they will be indicated with that kind of blue line underneath, okay? Any programs that are running will be indicated with that blue line. And remember, we can have more than one file or one window open in one program at one time. So for example, I'm pointing at PowerPoint right now. I have two different presentations running at the same time. That's why I get two thumbnails. Okay, so if I want to open up a specific window, I just point at it and click on it to reopen it. Okay, so by going down to our taskbar, we can go back to File Explorer, click on the icon to go back to that program, and here I am. So like I'm saying, your taskbar acts as your control center for all the windows that are currently running. You can minimize them, maximize them, and you can toggle back and forth between individual windows, allowing you to multitask. Okay, so we're back in File Explorer. So I want to create a folder for my English assignments. All right, I'm going to put it, since these are text-based documents, I'm going to put this new subfolder inside of the main documents folder. So let's go to the left navigation pane. Let's click on the arrow next to this PC to expand it. If it's already expanded, that's okay, just leave it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and click on documents to open up that folder on the right, like this. Okay, now, in order to put a new folder in here, it's very simple. There's a couple ways to do this. We can use the ribbon up top, but I find it easiest to just right click onto the empty or blank area of the folder like this. Just give it a right click. Remember, when we want to customize access, we often do that using a right click. So here it is again. Okay, so we have our contextual menu, and down below we have new. So point at new, and you'll see folder right at the top of that list. Go ahead and give that a left click. Now we see a new folder has been created. Now it has a generic name called new folder, but we want to call it something more specific. So I'm just going to erase that with my backspace key, and I'm going to call this, I'll just call it English. You can call it English homework, English assignments, whatever you want to call it. I'll just call it English. And then I'll press enter to save that name and that folder. So remember, right click, go to new. Up here, click on folder with a left click, and then give that folder a name. Okay, if you click outside of it by accident, oops. Okay, if you created that folder, sorry, I keep doing the same mistake. There we go. Remember, you could still go back to it to rename it. Just click on it once, give it a second, click on it again, and you'll be back inside, so you can change the name again if you made a mistake. Okay, so now we have a new subfolder called English, and that subfolder is located inside of the Documents folder. Okay, so now that we've created that folder, we're going to save that Word document into it. First, let's go back to square one. Go back to your left navigation pane. I'm going to click the arrow next to Documents to close it up. I'm going to click the arrow next to this PC to close that up. And then I'm going to click on this PC. So I'm looking at that on the right because I want to be back to kind of, like I said, square one. So I want to keep practicing navigating through our different folders. All right, so let's go back to Microsoft Word. Come down to our taskbar, click on the Word icon. Okay, so now we can go ahead and save this. Let's go up to the File menu. Top left corner, click on File. All right, in in several programs, not just Microsoft Office, you save your work by using a file menu. Many programs have a file menu, and that's where you go to save your work. So click on File, top left corner. I'll show you again, right up here. All right, good. So here we have Save and Save As. Let's remember what the difference is. When you see two different options like this, every time you save your document for the first time, that's going to be a Save As. Okay, and then every time you make a change to that document as you update it, that's just going to be a quick save. It's just going to overwrite or update that file. In this case, we're saving it for the first time. We need to not only save it, we also need to give it a name. We also need to give it a folder. So let's click Save As. Okay, and let's just, you can use the quick access or quick launch area for different folders. All right, but let's just ignore this for now. Let's click on this PC here on the left because we want to search for a folder on our computer, and then we'll click Browse down here to search for a folder in our PC. And when we're here, now we have the Save As window. Notice it looks just like File Explorer. We have a left navigation pane with the same categories, and then we have on the right side a main section where we can view specific folders and the files within. So now we want to make our way to that English folder. So what I'll do is, now it probably already defaulted to your documents folder, which is fine. Now so what we're looking at here, remember, we're looking inside the documents folder. So do we all see the English subfolder that we just created? Is it here? Yes? Good, okay. So let's go ahead and open up that folder. So double click it. It's just like in the real world. If we take a folder out of a cabinet, we can't put anything inside it until we open it up. Okay, same thing here. We have to double click it to open it up, and then we're inside of it. Okay, so let's also remember the importance of what's called the file path. Okay, when you're kind of navigating through folders, this is your file path, and it shows you the path you took to get to the folder you're inside of right now. So we're in this PC, and then we went to Documents, and then we went to the English subfolder. So the last thing listed in your file path is going to be the folder you're inside of right now. So we're inside of the English subfolder. So that's step one. We've selected the correct folder. Now let's go down to file name. Okay, it's going to say English essay because we've typed that into the document. It uses that as a name. You can leave that alone if you want to, or if you want to practice changing it, you can. Just click on it, erase what's there with your backspace or delete key. And maybe I'll call this, maybe I'll just call it English Essay 1. I'll add a 1 there to be a little more specific. Again, you don't have to, but you may as well just to practice, try changing the file name, even if it's the same thing. Just use your backspace or delete key to erase the current file name and just type in a new one. Okay, so we've assigned it to a folder, or we've assigned a folder to it, excuse me. We've given it a name. Now all we have to do is go to the bottom right and click on Save. So let's go ahead and close Word. Since we've saved it, we can just go ahead and close it. So go to the upper right-hand corner, click on the X to close. Upper right-hand corner of the screen, click on the X to close. Again, if you're still in Word, just go to the upper right-hand corner, click on the X to close. All right. Now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back to square one. I like to start over. So I'm going to go back to the left side. I'm going to click on the arrow next to documents to collapse the documents folder. I'm going to click on the arrow next to this PC to collapse this PC. And then I'm going to click on this PC. So that's what I'm looking at on the right. So let's do another example real quick. Let's go back to Word again. Go down to your taskbar, click on the Word icon to relaunch Microsoft Word, and then click on blank document. Okay, this time we're going to type in history essay. This is for our history class. All right, so now I'll show you how to create a new subfolder kind of after the fact. Okay, so we don't have to create the folder first and then save. We can actually do it all in one place. So I'm just showing you a slightly different way to create a new subfolder. So let's go ahead and save. Let's go to File, and again, go to Save As. Okay, under Save As here, we'll go to click on this PC, and then click Browse, so we browse all the folders in our PC. Now that's going to bring up our Save As window. Now from here, all right, I need to create a new subfolder called History for my history class. Okay. So again, it's putting us first into the main documents folder. That's okay. And then so we're looking inside the main documents folder here. So these are the subfolders that are inside the documents folder. I'm going to put a new history folder in here as well. So to do that, it's going to be the same process. We can actually do it right from here. Right click, just like we did before, into an empty area. Just right click. So in this kind of white space here in the folder, give it a right click. All right, and we see the same thing. We come down to New, and we see Folder, click on Folder. And now we have a new folder. Let's erase what's there and call it History. And then just press Enter to save that name. Last but not least, remember, we want to put this in that folder, which means we have to open the folder first. So double click on that new history folder, and now we're inside of it. Okay, look at your file path to verify, documents, and then history. So we're looking inside of the history folder right now. So we're in the right place. Now we need to give it a name. So go down to File Name. If you want to practice changing it, just click on the name. It should highlight in blue. Press backspace or delete to erase it, and call it whatever you want. I'll call it History Essay 1. Now I'm going to click Save in the bottom right. Now I'm going to close Word. I'll go to the top right corner, click on the X to close the program. Now we're back to File Explorer. If you're not looking at it, just click on it in your taskbar to reopen it. So let's go ahead and find that History Essay 1 document. So on the left side, I'll expand this PC by clicking on the arrow next to it. I will then expand the Documents folder by clicking on the arrow next to Documents. Now from my list of subfolders, I'll select History. And then on the right side, there's the document, History Essay 1. Remember, even if you click on Documents, for example, instead of expanding it, you'll still see the subfolders, but on the right side instead. That's fine. Just double click on History, and you'll see inside of it. All right, we're going to do one more example, and then we're going to use these files to kind of do a few more exercises, okay, these existing files and folders. So I'm going to go back to square one. On the left side, I'm going to collapse the documents folder by clicking on the arrow next to documents. I'm going to collapse this PC by clicking on the arrow next to this PC. And then I'll click on this PC, so that's what I'm looking at on the right here. Now, let's open up Word one last time. We're going to do one more. Click on blank document. Okay, this time, this is our economics essay. So this time we're going to purposely make a mistake, and then we're going to fix it. Okay, let's go to File, and then go to Save As we've been doing. Let's go to this PC, and then click on Browse. Good. Now, let's just say we're going to purposely put this into the wrong subfolder. So remember, right now we're looking in the main documents folder. It does that by itself. And then we have our subfolders here. Now let's double click on history, open up the history subfolder. Okay, verify that you're in the right place by looking at the file path. It says history. And then come down to file name. If you want to give it a new name, go ahead. Economics Essay 1. And then we'll click on Save. Now we're going to close Word. I'll go to the upper right-hand corner, click on the X to close this program. Back to File Explorer. So I put it into the wrong folder. Okay, I should have put it in a folder called Economics, but maybe, but I don't have one yet. So first we need to create a new subfolder, and then we're going to move that document or that file into a different folder. So now we're going to practice not only creating a folder again, but also moving files around. So let's start by going into the Documents folder, because that's where we want to place the Economics subfolder. Okay, so remember, you could either make your way to the Documents folder on the left, or since we're already looking at this PC here, just double click on Documents here to open it up. Now we're going to right click on the background and go down to New, and select Folder. Let's call this Economics. Remember, just erase what's there and give it a new name, and press Enter after you put in that name. Now, there are a couple ways to move things around. The way I like to do it is I like to use the left navigation pane and this main section at the same time. So if we think about it, if I want to put that economics essay, if I want to move it from the history folder into the economics folder, well, I could use the left navigation pane to have access to the folder, and the right side to have access to the file, and then we can move with a simple click and drag. So just stay right where you are. All right, on the left side, we're going to click on the arrow next to this PC to expand it. Then we're going to click on the arrow next to Documents to expand Documents. All right, so now we have the subfolder. So there's Economics. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the document from the right side and put it into the Economics folder on the left. So on the right side, double click on History to open up that folder. On the right side, double click on History. Now go to the Economics essay, give it a click and drag, and drop it. It's going to say Move to Economics, drop it, and now you just moved it to a new location. So notice how we're using both sides at the same time now. So now if on the left side, if I click on economics, I see that I did in fact relocate the economics SA1 document into the economics subfolder. So now it's in the right place. All right, if you clicked on the economics folder and there's nothing there, it's probably just because you accidentally moved it into the wrong folder. All right, now, so that's kind of the easiest way to move files around. Now remember, a very important thing to remember is that you can do things as batches, okay? So I'll do a quick example here. So in this folder, and I have this folder called class samples. I have a bunch of files here, okay? If I want to move all of these into a new folder, I don't have to do them one by one. All right, I've gotten this question a few times where people are trying to kind of clean up their folders a little bit, so it's because everything's all over the place. When you're using a PC, if you want to select more than one item at a time, okay? Because if I give it a single click, it's going to undo the one before it, right? So if I want to select more than one thing, if I hold down the control key and then click while holding it down, I can select multiple objects or multiple items. So your control key is at the bottom left of your keyboard, CTRL. All right. So if I hold down control, I can select multiple things, and then if I click and drag, it will move all of them as a group or a batch. In fact, right now it says 8, indicating that there are 8 files currently selected as part of this group, and that I can put them wherever I need to put them. Okay, you can also do the same thing with the Shift key. All right, if you're going to move everything, Shift is going to be faster. Select the first item in the range, hold down Shift, select the last item in the range, and it will select everything in between as well. And then I can move things around as a batch. Okay, now, let's talk about copying real quick, copying files or folders. I'm just looking here. All right. I'm going to show you this on my screen because it's going to be hard to do this otherwise. So just kind of watch for 1 second. Let's talk about copying files and folders real quick. So a reason we often copy files and folders is because we want to create backups, right? A backup is just what it says. It's another copy of that thing, so that we might have one stored on our computer and then we might have a copy of it stored somewhere else. Just in case our computer crashes or something happens, we still have access to those very important files and folders somewhere else, okay? So what I'm simulating right now is basically I'm going to back up a file or maybe even a folder. And let me just see. Let me try one more time. What I'm doing is I'm plugging a flash drive into my computer, okay? Now, when you are using other storage devices, like a portable storage device such as a flash drive, if you plug it into the USB port on your computer, it will show up in your File Explorer navigation pane. So notice here it says the G drive. Okay, that's the letter assigned to the USB port that I'm using for my flash drive. So once I plugged it in, now it's showing up in the list. So now I can access that flash drive from here to navigate the folders inside of the flash drive. Okay, and it's just like doing it inside of your main hard drive. So let's say I want to take, so right now I'm looking inside of the main documents folder here, and I see the 3 subfolders, economics, English, and history. Okay, I want to create copies of each of those file or folders as backups. So it's very simple. One way to do it is with your right click. I can right click on the economics folder. I can select copy from the list. Then I go to the new location, which is the flash drive. So I'll click on the flash drive. And then I right click onto this background and click on paste. So copy and then paste into the new folder. And there it is. And by the way, the documents inside that folder were copied as well. So now I have the economics folder and the documents inside of it available in 2 different places. On my hard drive in the documents folder, and I have a copy of it saved on my flash drive, which I can then take out of my computer and have access to it on another computer somewhere else. So again, if something happens to my computer, it's okay. I still have access to that folder as a backup on my flash drive. So I'll just do it again. This time I'll right click on English. I'll select copy. And then I'll go to the new location, my flash drive, right click and then paste. And I may as well do the same thing with the history folder. Right click, copy, go to the new location, right click, paste. So when we move it, we're relocating it. When we copy it, we're creating a duplicate. We're creating a backup. And by the way, all the same operations apply to an individual document. Okay. So by right clicking on the document, I get the same options. I could copy the document itself and then paste it into a folder. So we could do the same things, we could do the same operations with folders as we could do with files in terms of moving and copying. Now let me go ahead and just eject that flash drive for now. Good. All right, now last but not least, let's talk about deleting real quick. I'm sorry, shortcuts and then deleting. So shortcuts, very simple. I'm going to go back to this PC. All right, so if you want to go ahead, click on the arrow next to this PC. Click on the arrow next to documents, and let's go to the English folder here. Okay, this English essay 1. All right, I want to have quicker access to it. I don't want to have to always dig through my folders to get to it. Maybe I'm working on it every single day for the next week or next 2 weeks. So a great way to get quicker access to files and folders is to add them as shortcuts to your main desktop area here, okay? So it's very, very simple. Once again, we use the right click. So go ahead and right click on that document. And from our menu, we go down to new again. Oh, I'm sorry, not new, send to, excuse me, send to. All right, so right click on the document, go to send to, and then on this set of options, we see desktop create shortcut. Go ahead and click that. And by the way, just to point this out, in case you saw from that same menu down here, create shortcut, that's not what you want. That's going to put a shortcut here in the folder, which doesn't really help you. We want to put it on the desktop. So that's why we went to send to and then desktop create shortcut. So now if we minimize our window, remember to minimize, click on the minus sign up here in the upper right hand corner. That just puts it temporarily away out of your view. If you look at your desktop, you'll have a new shortcut called English Essay 1. And mine is somewhere here. Let me find it. There it is. Okay, do we all have this? Right? Good. So that's a shortcut. Now, notice the arrow in that icon. Let me make it a little bigger so you can see it better. And let me find it again. Right here. Okay, there's an arrow here. Whenever we see that arrow, that indicates a shortcut. Okay, if you don't see an arrow, that means that this file was saved directly to my desktop. That's a different thing. When you do see the arrow, that's a shortcut. So what's a shortcut? Well, yes, it's a quick access point to that file or folder or program. Okay, but it is kind of a file in and of itself. So think of it as this. Think of it as just kind of a second doorway to get to that file or folder. Okay, meaning that if I delete the shortcut, I'm not deleting the file or folder to which it leads, just the shortcut. I'm just deleting the doorway. Does that make sense? So this is a shortcut to the English Essay 1 document. If I delete the shortcut from my desktop right now, I'm not going to delete the document. I'm just deleting the shortcut itself. Okay, so that's why I said it's different than pinning like we looked at earlier, because we're creating a different, we're kind of creating a new file. And if we delete the shortcut, the document to which it leads or the folder to which it leads, like I have here, is still there. We're just deleting the shortcut. Okay, so, and by the way, to create shortcuts to folders is just the same exact process. Right click on the folder, go to send to, and then desktop create shortcut. Okay. So, and if you want to create shortcuts to programs or apps, you could do that from your start menu. Click and drag on the app and just place it onto your desktop and it will create a shortcut to that app like this. All right. Now, I want to delete those two shortcuts I just created. Okay. So now we're going to talk about deleting real quick. Very simple. When you're using Windows and you delete something, it doesn't delete permanently right away. It goes into what's called the recycle bin. And then you decide if you want to delete it permanently or restore it, which means put it back to where it was if you change your mind. Now you're going to have the recycle bin saved to your desktop. There it is. You probably have it in the top left corner. So a few ways to delete things. One of them is to right click, go down and click on delete. Okay, another way is to click and drag that icon into the recycle bin like this. So there it is again, either right click or click and drag. As I said, two techniques we often use to customize layout and access. Last but not least, another way, I'll just use another quick example here. Let me find one that I could use. Actually, I'll restore this. Let's do this. Perfect. Another way is just to select that icon and then press delete on your keyboard. That will also delete it, but it puts it into your recycle bin. So 3 different ways to delete something. And by the way, all of those techniques I just reviewed, you could use them directly from File Explorer. Okay, so if I want to delete this folder, I could right click, go to delete. I could restore down my window and click and drag it out of the window into the recycle bin, or I could press delete on my keyboard. So now that I've placed those 2 shortcuts into the recycle bin, I'm going to open up the recycle bin by double clicking it. Now we're inside of it. So here's where you can go to manage all the stuff in your recycle bin. And it looks just like File Explorer, all right? Same, it's kind of same way to navigate through files and folders. But anything that's already in the recycle bin is right here in the main part. All right, so you have a few options. You can restore them or delete them permanently. If you change your mind and you want to put them back to where they were, you can right click on that specific file and click on restore. And then it goes back to where it came from. Okay. Remember, you can also, remember the method I showed you for batch selecting. You can select more than one thing, right click, restore, and restore all the ones you selected, not just one at a time. Okay. Okay, if you're not restoring, you do want to delete permanently, you can either right click on an item and select delete. You can select items as a batch, like I just said. Same thing, right click delete, and it will delete all of them as a batch. Or if you want to delete everything in your recycle bin, right click on the background and select empty recycle bin. And that will just delete everything in the recycle bin, no matter how many things there are. You'll get a message asking, are you sure you want to permanently delete these items? And it will indicate how many. You'll click yes, and then they're gone forever. All right, I'm just going to close recycle bin. And remember, those were just the shortcuts. The English Essay 1 document is still here in the English folder. I just deleted the shortcut to it. Oh, how did I do that? There we go. All right, so if you have any questions, that'd be a good time to ask. All right, but just to quickly review here what we just discussed. We talked about accessing files and apps on our PC using Windows. So we have the desktop, which is a quick access area. It organizes the files and apps you use most often. I should say files and folders and apps you use most often. Okay, your taskbar, another quick access point or quick access area, organizes the files and apps you use most often, though it's really meant for apps, okay, primarily, not so much files and folders. And it indicates which app, files and apps are open. Remember that blue underline. It also has the search option. Last but not least is your start menu. Organizes everything on your computer, and we can personalize it by pinning things to the start menu as tiles, as we saw before. Just like we can pin things to the taskbar. All right, so thank you for coming to Windows 10 Essentials today. Remember that this was recorded, and it will be available on our library's YouTube channel on our computer instruction playlist. All right, and if it's not this exact recording, it will be something very, very similar. Okay, to get to that recording, go to our website at mcl.org. Click on the YouTube icon at the top left of the homepage. Okay, that will take you to our YouTube channel. Once you're there, go to playlists and then select the computer instruction playlist. And you'll see all of our class recordings. All right, and while you're there, you may as well check out all the other great playlists we offer through the library for other types of programs. Now, if you remember, for those of you attending virtually, if you want to get the handout to this class, or maybe a different class, they're available on our website. Go to mcl.org, our library website, click on Services from the main menu, and then select Technology Instruction. Once you're on the Technology Instruction page, just scroll down and you'll see all the handouts listed by the name of the class. All right, and of course, we always hope you sign up for some more classes. You can do so through our website, either through the main event calendar or by going to our Technology Instruction page. Or you could go visit any branch in person and register at the reference desk. All right, we have a lot more great classes this month, so check them out. And on select Fridays this month, we are still offering virtual private sessions. Between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on select Fridays, we will work with you virtually on a computer project you might need some help with. Or in some cases, we can offer some troubleshooting tips for one of your devices. All right, so if you're interested, just find them in the same computer class calendar as the other classes and just follow the instructions to book your appointment. If you have any other questions about our technology instruction program, remember you can always email us at techclass@mcl.org. All right, so for those of you here in person, at this time, if you could just go to your Start menu, click on your Start menu. All right, go ahead, click on your Start menu icon, bottom left corner. And then right above, click on the Power button. It's right above that. And then select Shut Down to shut down your PCs. All right, so again, thank you for coming to class today. If you have any further questions, those of you attending virtually, just go ahead and submit them to the GoToMeeting chat. If you're all set for the day, you can click on the X in the upper right-hand corner of the GoToMeeting window and then select Leave Meeting. If you are leaving us, thank you so much for coming. We hope to see you in class again very soon. Take care.